Hey everyone, Rob from Southgate Media Group here. Before we get started with this podcast, we have a quick message. If this is your first time checking out the show, we love that you found us and we really hope you enjoy it. What we have to say is for the subscribers. If you enjoy our shows, would you please donate to help keep these going? We don't want to have to put traditional ads on these shows, but this does cost money. So we really do rely heavily on donations. To make a donation to the show, please go to our website, www.southgatemediagroup.com. Go to the page for the show, and in the upper right-hand corner is a donate button. It takes you right to PayPal, and you can donate whatever amount you want. Thanks a lot for listening, everybody. And now, on with the show.
Welcome, everyone, to the second episode of the Bachelor Universe podcast. Tonight, we witnessed the second episode of the season of Chris the Bachelor, and there's a lot of drama that continues. A lot of interesting things happening tonight's show. We will be going over that right now. So the show basically begins with, it ended with a cliffhanger, with Kimberly coming back into the house, begging Chris to take her back, and we didn't know if he would or if he wasn't going to do it, making us tune in to watch it. After some deliberation and talking with Kimberly, Chris decides to bring her back and give her a chance. To the dismay of course, all the women in the house, they were obviously pretty mad about that situation. But I really think Chris made the right choice here. I think it was cool to see him give her a chance, not only because she's pretty damn hot, but it just kind of sets a different aura about him, that he isn't going to give in to all the women in the house, and that he's going to actually do what's best for him. And why not explore another possibility? You never know where that could take him and his love life. So he gives Kimberly a shot, brings her back in the house. Chris Harrison okays it, and that's where we start off. So our first group date was an interesting one. The girls that got to go on this group date were Jade, Tandra, Ashley I, Mackenzie, resurrected Kimberly, and of course Tara, who finally recovered and is post her hangover. So they got to go on a LA country date. It was weird in a sense that they basically played in a pool or whatever you might call it. This is a problem I'm having. ABC is just milking every situation where you could find Chris without a shirt off. I mean, do we really need to see him showering and soaping up? Come on. I mean, there's guys that watch the show too, like me. I don't want to see that at all times. Come on, ABC. Tone it down. So, yeah, they're all in their swimsuits. They're playing in a pool, having fun. And then the real fun starts, because their date is basically a tractor race. Right. In the middle of Hollywood, in a sense. So yeah, they need to have basically a little race, and the winner gets a little one-on-one with Chris. And the race is basically tractors or go-karts. So impressive they found such things. It was goofy and silly, but the winner of that was Ashley I, the blogger slash freelance writer. That's what she is. She's a cutie, though. So she basically gets to chat with Chris afterwards. Not much happens. Not much gets accomplished. Kind of a meaningless encounter, but I guess they take what they can get. Now, the night doesn't end there. Chris basically takes Mackenzie on a one-on-one date. So Mackenzie's the woman from Washington, the 21-year-old, the youngest one on the show, with a 1-year-old son. And that was the big thing that happened on this date, is that she revealed to Chris that she has a kid. So there we go. The cat's out of the bag, and Chris now knows she has a kid, to which, surprisingly, in a sense, he took really well to, because that date was going nowhere. She was asking him what he thinks about aliens. Yeah, that was interesting and slash creepy, to say the least. I mean, he's a farmer, but you're really gonna ask him about aliens? Like, oh boy. The girl just had no personality, didn't have much to say at all. Apparently, Chris was really impressed with her telling him about her son and kind of showing a picture of him. And Chris found that an attractive thing about her, and he mentioned that, and he gave her a rose, which was pretty surprising because I really don't see her meshing well with him. And she's 21, he's 12 years older than her. Clearly, she's immature and just doesn't have much of a personality at all. So that's the problem there. But Chris yet still gives her a rose, and she gets the first rose of the night, which was a mild surprise because she should probably be packing home. Back at the house, the remaining girls, of course, chatting up. But Julia makes a big confession to the rest of the women, telling them that basically that she has a daughter, she has a child, but that her husband committed suicide shortly after the daughter's birth. So that was pretty heavy news to take in, and clearly the women were distraught over that and saddened. So yeah, that was a big revelation, kind of early on in the show. So yeah, there's a second woman apparently now, along with Kelsey, that had a husband die. Heavy stuff. Chris wasn't aware of this, so she just shared it with the house. But yeah, sad stuff. Wonder how she can recover from that though. One-on-one date again. Megan gets a one-on-one date with Chris. They get a helicopter ride over Hoover Dam, which is a hell of a lot better than that dinner date that he had with Mackenzie. That was alien talk centered. But yeah, Megan got a really solid date, a helicopter ride. They shared a romantic moment on a side of a cliff. But the big thing was that she actually revealed to him why she was there. Her father had passed away. A lot of death seems to be the theme of this season. But yeah, she had revealed that her father had passed away and that she still had decided to come on the show and wasn't sure about it, but decided to take a leap of faith. And Chris was really taken back by it, and obviously he was really, yeah, I mean, he really appreciated her being there and doing that for him. I think it was really genuine and no sort of fakeness about this situation from either of their sides. I think she was really genuine and seemed like she wanted to be there for Chris, and he really, really appreciated it. So she quickly got a rose right after that. That's something that might develop into something, as Chris had mentioned, that he was really impressed with her, and that's what it was. So second rose handed out, 2 for 2. The next group date was, that's an interesting one. Kelsey, Trina, Elisa, Tracy, Jillian, Becca, Amber, Ashley S., Julia, Caitlin, and Britt. Yeah, almost the whole house. So this was the more entertaining yet funny part of the show. Basically, they were in a limo and they driven to some dark parking lot, and yep, it was Halloween time, and you had all kinds of Halloween characters knocking on the limo window. These girls were absolutely terrified. I mean, you should have seen the screaming, and they were basically huddled up, like a football pile on. They were piling on one on top of each other, just through sheer fright. Wow. Apparently, it doesn't take much to scare anyone in that house. So then Chris shows up, and their date was a paintball event, Halloween themed. So they were shooting. They weren't shooting at each other, although Ashley S had no idea what she was doing there, and she had decided that she was going to dominate this event. But they were actually shooting at zombies. Um, and boy, that was definitely Ashley S's event. She, if you had any reservations or any inkling about it, is she okay? Is she normal? She's definitely not, because she was insane. Literally, that describes it all. I can't even say she was drunk because that goes beyond that. The woman's either really got issues, and Caitlin elaborated on that, saying, if you want to see crazy, that was crazy. But I am hoping, and I am really hoping, she is not on any drugs or anything at all. Hopefully not. So we'll keep it at that. But yes, she is out of her mind officially. I don't know how Chris kept her going at that point. It's one of those situations where you just let her leave in the middle of this thing, because uh, she was apparently looking went on the ground looking at some cat. It was just insanity. Clearly, our crazy of the season is Ashley S. That was an interesting date, and that's it. Rose ceremony time. Tara, the sloppy drunk, once again, kind of drunk, but this time Jordan took it over from her. Jordan was clearly drunk, stumbling over, and being a complete wreck. So, another theme of the show is everyone keeps on getting drunk, like really drunk to the point where they can't function. Boy, this season's really in a tailspin so far. Death, alcohol, and crazy. Straight up crazy. That's a theme. So we find out at this point, right before the rose ceremony, that Ashley I is a virgin. Yeah, she has a little conversation with Chris, and something about her belly button ring. It was something really silly how she's got like 3 belly button rings, and he was supposed to make a wish. At this point, he'd probably wish for her to disappear. But Ashley I is a virgin and proceeds to just absolutely tear Chris down with a makeout session. Yeah, I don't know. Virgins are that aggressive, so I'm questioning that in a sense. Another theme that's emerging is that Chris is taking every opportunity to kiss every girl possible. I mean, clearly the guy has never seen a real hot chick where he grew up and on the farm in Iowa, and he's taking full advantage of that. So, if you're a woman and you'll talk to Chris, he'll probably kiss you because he's never seen a hottie before, and that's he's taking full advantage of that. So, more power to you, Chris. If you want to kiss all these girls, they're there. Why not? And he's clearly taking them up on that offer. There was also an encounter with Britt, who made a strong impression on Chris the first night. It's one of his early favorites. It's the first one he actually kissed, which I don't know if it means much now since he's kissing everyone who talks to him. Uh, but Britt, once again, made a good impression on him, and he still has that thing for her. That romance is brewing, and of course, they were kissing because that's what Chris does. However, things got a little bit weird because the rose went to Caitlin, and that caught Britt by surprise the most. She had tears flowing down her eyes, and that girl is falling too hard. She's calling him her boyfriend at this point. She's telling the other girls that she's calling him her boyfriend. Might be a slight case of crazy, but she's a waitress from Hollywood, so go figure. Um, and then proceeding to the rose ceremony. Britt gets the first rose. Ashley I gets the second rose. Okay, so Virgin getting it done. Trina gets a rose. Kelsey gets a rose. And this episode didn't really feature much of Kelsey, who I picked as the winner of the show. So yeah, not much emphasis on her, but expect in the upcoming episodes to be heavily geared towards her way. Samantha got a rose. Julia got a rose. Amber got a rose. Tracy, the school teacher, big fan. Nikki got a rose. Jillian got a rose. Becca got a rose. One of my favorites, Jade, was getting worried that she wouldn't get a rose, but thankfully Chris is smart enough to give her one. Carly got a rose, and then the final one was brewing down to Whitney. She got a rose, the Disney princess that sounds like she has helium. You know, that, yeah, like when you blow into a balloon and the helium voice thing. Yeah, that's how she sounds. Pretty bad. But then the final rose came down, and it was either Tandra, Jordan, Flight Attendant Elisa, or one of his favorites from the beginning, Drunken Tara. Who was he going to pick? That or Ashley S? And obviously, Ashley S was not going to get picked after that craziness she exhibited earlier on in the paintball thing. Of course, Chris picks her. So that was absolutely must have been a producer call because there's no way this chick should have been picked. But Ashley S lives another day, and the surprise that's going home this week was Tara, really. Didn't really kind of expect her. I thought Chris gave her a solid chance the first time around, but she also didn't make an impression on him in this episode either. So I think it was just like a looks thing, and she looked on paper much better than she really was. So Tara goes home shocked, crying, not believing he sent her this early. But so far in this season, Chris has pretty much picked the right ones. I mean, there were two surprises. The last roses were surprises on both episodes. Ashley S. and Tara getting it the first time around. But the other girls who he's been sending home haven't really made much of an impression. They weren't featured much on the show at all, and there's no connection. So no surprise that Tandra, Jordan, and Elisa really went home because there was nothing going on between Chris and them. But Ashley S. Wow. Surprise, surprise, she's sticking around. Don't expect her to last past the next episode. Just as I said, what the same thing would happen with Tara, and it did. She didn't last past this episode, so expect Ashley as to be gone fairly quickly. But that was the episode for tonight, episode 2. Solid. Next week, the preview was of basically a man comes out of a limo, so walking inside the house, going straight up to Chris's room. Chris, of course, sleeping, and wakes Chris up. Chris looks surprised, and it is revealed to be Jimmy Kimmel. So that's the big surprise for next week is Jimmy Kimmel will be on the show or hosting. I am not sure what he is going to do. Is he going to play the role of Chris Harrison? Maybe. Or just add comedic relief? I don't know. But Jimmy Kimmel is going to be a big part of next week's show. So that's been previewed. No real scenes or clips shown for the next episode. So that should be a interesting surprise for us to see what happens. Comments from tonight's episode. Boy, when they went on that walk around LA, I mean, Chris, he was wearing, I don't even know, it was like Speedo shorts or something, and he had a sweatshirt, a hoodie. It just, oh boy. That's a farmer getting dressed by himself, basically. The women were dressed in bikinis, walking through LA pretty much, which is pretty normal in a sense. so far, the people are standing out in the show. Obviously, Britt, Ashley S. being a crazy. You have Becca didn't make much of an impression in tonight's episode, which was a bit surprising. Expected to see more of her since she made a big impression. Jillian is just talking and flexing her muscles. And then, of course, I think the big Kelsey wasn't featured much. The big name that's going to be sticking around probably a while and that's really featured a lot seems to be Caitlin, dance instructor from Vancouver. She's a hottie, but she seems kind of bitchy in a sense. So we will see how far Caitlyn will go. I think she's going to go real far, but that's the focus so far. First two episodes, a lot of Caitlyn. So we'll see how that goes next week. Thanks for joining the podcast this week. Make sure you tune in next week after episode 3. A lot more to go in this season. We just are getting started. Hopefully, like I mentioned, I will have some guests coming on the podcast. So make sure you're listening for that. Until next week, I'm out. Make sure you check out chicagonow.com, Bachelor Universe, or just Google Bachelor Universe, and you can read my columns about every week's episode and news and rumors and other tidbits that might not be on the podcast or vice versa. So until next week, see you guys. Thanks for joining me and let the craziness roll. The women of the corn are officially crazy.